I don't want to waste anybody's time. I play a lot of JRPGs. These finales are the darkest the genre has to offer. Enjoy.
Shoot for the moon, kid.
Moon Remix RPG is unlike any game I've ever played, and I'm willing to bet unlike anything most people ever have played. These days, mostly delegated to being known as a major inspiration for Undertale. And even then, besides that, it's still pretty much remained in obscurity, even now. Moon may be the most truly ahead of its time game to ever exist, only rivaled by possibly Metal Gear Solid 2. If you know, you know. However, be warned, you shouldn't be fooled by this game's disarmingly soft and cutesy visuals, because this game is littered with shockingly dark premises, even far before we arrive at the finale. For a basic frame of reference, you spend the game trapped as a JRPG NPC, where you are then forced to observe an RPG hero from the angle of a regular person. And it makes you realize a lot. For example, that if a man clad in armor started going around town destroying property to look for money and looting from people's homes, all about while killing wildlife out in local fields, it would really all look psychotic. And observing this night results in a journey where you're constantly looking over your shoulder and often doubting your next course of action, because subconsciously you end up dreading the idea of making a wrong turn and potentially bumping into this guy, especially alone. At the core of your objective, besides mindfully keeping track of NPC routes to help around town, you end up guiding the souls of deceased animals back into their bodies, where they're then flown off to a safe haven on the moon. It seems like the perfect solution because all the way on the moon, the knight can't reach them. With enough dedication and hard work, you begin to learn so much about the people of this world, and over time you get to see you and all your new friends be able to make some real change, learning and growing off one another, gradually forming this new community support system that feels like everyone is beginning to come together and alleviate the stress and tension that's befallen the town. And with enough time, you're able to finally enact a plan to save the kingdom, the World Reformation Plan, in which you yourself take a rocket ship to the moon to reach a door that, when opened, has the power to return the moonlight to the world below, seeing as the Dragon of Legend has seemingly taken up all of the light and sealed away the darkness at some point before the events of the game. With enough fuel and love, we've really made it all the way to the moon. It's so beautiful. Everyone you've taken the time to rescue is here, all in one piece, and it's the culmination of all your efforts. And the moon remains to be so entrancing and otherworldly even when compared to the world you just flew from. That's saying a lot. The only thing left to do is open that door and, oh, I can't just yet. Well, surely this is where me and all my friends work together, so in a full circle way, they end up saving me, right? But just before we get to deliberate on another method to get the door open. Somehow, at some point, the knight hitched a ride on a rocket without us knowing, and now this demon made of steel has finally come to complete his mission and beat the game. As we know, the dragon must die for the prophecy to be fulfilled, but there's still some time for the queen or the dragon or whatever to help us out. She seems to be some sort of higher power after all. I'm sure we'll receive some kind of ultimatum for opening this door that could... It is soul-crushing, and despite all the silly animations that the knight has The fact that we know he's the only entity in this world with any degree of power to fight has served as unnerving since our very arrival to this place. Over time, we've grown so accustomed to finding ways to sneak past him or even flat out having him disregard us because we were flat out irrelevant, a non-factor. And I'm sure it subconsciously by this point in the game has successfully lulled us all into a false sense of security. Because when the knight initiates his final fight, your journey abruptly comes to an end. You see, the world of Moon was doomed from the start. We never had a chance to change that. The game reminds you of this constantly. What's done is done. It's no coincidence on the Moon, the final area of the game, is littered about with ROM-RAMs all over the place. It's all code. So what was this all for exactly? Well, it was for love. If you figure out how to earn the game's true end credits, you get to see that in a way everyone from Castletown lives on. That being through your memories of them living on, through the love you gave them, and what you learned in return from them. You return back home to your world, not as some mythical hero forever to be heralded by the denizens of Castletown, as a savior, but as someone who showed them compassion, and became a friend who undoubtedly will let them live on through the lessons they've taught you. You and the townspeople have given each other so much, and it's not just beautiful storytelling, but it's really sweet, and about as happy of an ending we will be looking at here today.
Wheezing Steel.
The worlds of Megami Tensei are often filled with strife and struggle. However, the most pervasive element of each plight in these games is the cyclical nature of everything, even down to the very title of the franchise. Shin Megami Tensei, when translated meaning True Goddess Metempsychosis. Metempsychosis simply meaning the idea of rebirth in an infinite cycle of life and death. The tragedy we're faced with in the world of Shin Megami Tensei 4 and all of its denizens just so happens to be that it seems no matter how anyone tries as they might, their particular world seems to pull in on itself in a very self-destructive way. We can all be flat out honest and all agree on something, that being that no matter what alignment you choose and find yourself aligning with, come by the end of the journey, it will come at the cost of the suffering of innocence. In a really messed up way, you're just kind of selecting which genocide you're personally more comfortable with. Be it through Lucifer's dog-eat-dog world where power is a simple end-all be-all to everything, or even Merkabah's will to uphold the church, no matter how corrupt, at the cost of denying these so-called unclean ones a home. The truth is, even if you decide to dispatch both of them, the game is underlined with this idea that any solution an individual comes up with is simply a band-aid in this world. And so long as humans are in charge of the world, inevitably things will go awry again, with the only thing delaying that being time. But truth be told, there is someone with the power to truly change all of this, to change the world in a really permanent way, and that person is you. After you claw your way through the alternate world of Inferno Tokyo, regardless if you chose law or chaos, you will find yourself within proximity of a machine known as the Yamato Perpetual Reactor. To put it simply, this singular machine is what the people of Tokyo are reliant on for electricity. Even some rumors allege that at some point this machine was used to summon demons and was utilized as a weapon of sorts. After felling Kenji, you're visited by entities known only as the Whites. These lingering spirits are the fallen humans that lost their lives by the hand of God's so-called angels. From the other side, these tortured spirits know the truth, that truth being that the God of their world is completely man-made in order to stave off responsibility for preserving and elevating humanity by their own merits, instead choosing to be reliant on a power that they formed. Again, a complete relinquishing of responsibility. However, now they visit you to offer you a solution to end the never-ending cycle of law and chaos. These two factions, forever at war, has done nothing but delay progression for mankind as a whole. Every clash that they have bringing nothing but strife, torture, starvation, murder, and everlasting war. But seemingly, according to the Whites, there's a way out? In this pocket of time you've escaped to, you and you alone are left with a choice. To reform the world where surely eternal strife will continue and war between humans and demons will rage on, or to end the cycle. But how exactly will that work? Well, it's quite simple. All you need to do is fight one final battle, And the kicker? This thing won't even fight back. This tower of steel is not purely some mystical artifact, but it's also an actual particle accelerator, meaning that if one were to, I don't know, let's just say, begin to attack the control device, you wouldn't simply just destroy the machine, it would destroy everything. This twisted so-called final bout begins with your AI companion Burroughs saying this.
This encounter is a little unusual. I'll be supporting you. I get the feeling this is where we part ways, Master. Your target is the control device for the particle accelerator. I'll scan it to see if it has a defense mechanism. Scan complete. The target has no defenses at all. You should be able to destroy it just by attacking it normally.
In all of this, Burroughs' matter-of-fact cadence almost frames this as a simple ordeal, and the first time I played it, it didn't even come off as cold as much as it came off detached. That is, at least at first. Besides the screeches of metal beneath your sword, besides even the harsh, almost fiery, but still somehow dark background visuals, lies something that's truly unsettled me. That being, just before you follow through with your deed to end everything in existence, Burroughs has one thing left to say.
The target's damages are over 75%. Master, you do understand what will happen once the control device is destroyed, right? Of course. Sorry. There's no way you would be doing this if you didn't understand the consequences. I'll back you up to the very end, so follow through on the path you chose.
Burroughs is an AI whose sole mission is to aid you on your journey. Quite literally, none of us would make it without her. Regardless of all of her assistance, I still find this unsettling from multiple angles. First of all, when she hesitates, is it possible that the extreme measure you're about to take has caused even an AI to feel fear? Keep in mind, this is before you even know that she's a lingering god. So I wonder if secretly, does she possibly believe that ultimately this permanent decision to destroy everything is perfectly viable? I mean, think about it. She makes no full-out verbal effort to intervene. In more traditional styled stories, these kind of moments would be met with a character pleading or screaming in some sort of over-the-top or even melodramatic fashion. But the way Burroughs simply decides to leave you be on the path you've chosen, the path you've chosen for everyone, I just find it also haunting that this AI may have done the numbers themselves and realized maybe this is for the best. The white ending is more often than not written off as a less favorable or even bad ending by the broader community. But the truth is, I'm not so sure. While surely I don't exactly align with the idea that everyone would be better off dead rather than fighting the good fight, that position is from the perspective of a person that has not come from a world as grim or grisly as the one shown in Shin Megami Tensei 4. It makes me almost able to see why someone would see this as a totally viable choice. I often find myself likening this dilemma to something you'd see in some sort of DNR scenario. Do you hold on to what little pieces there are of an idealistic wish to make something last? Or do you pull the plug to end the suffering? I guess it's way easier for someone to say something for sure until, God forbid, one day you're the one that has to make the choice.
It's just business.
Welcome to Cadillac's Island. The way of life is mostly simple here. People go about their day-to-day lives, and you, for the most part, can take things nice and slow. As a part-time can kicker, as a full-time digger, you'll often find yourself helping people, be it through helping them find lost belongings or even silly things like scolding dogs. When conflict arises, it's usually with the silly but lovable trombones. They definitely cause their share of mayhem and definitely cause real trouble, but for the most part, like you, they're simply on a quest to acquire a great treasure. And though selfish, you never get the idea that they're simply out to harm others. One of them even has a bit of a crush on you. And the tone when they share the screen is mostly goofy. And I want to say about 90% of Mega Man Legends is like this. Just like a Saturday morning cartoon. Super fun and high energy. But what about that other 10%? Cadillac's is so many things, as I've stated. It's colorful, it's homey, it's so lively, and it's home to so many things. But it's no secret to anyone that's been here. There are parts that are a little eerie. But hey, if you start digging underground anywhere, in the dark things are bound to get creepy. So that's no big deal. Oh, it does house one other thing though, that I probably should have warned you about. It's the home of a toy of mass genocide. Up to this point, one would naturally assume that the final confrontation would involve the Bonds in some capacity. But after a seemingly conclusive battle with Bruno, you're left to wonder what's ahead, with the only thing weighing on you being these extremely eerie and recently discovered sub-cities. These cities contrast every location in Cadillac's you've seen thus far, both visually and every other way you could imagine. After exploring the sub-cities, you now have the ability to access the main gate. Enter Mega Man Juno.
First time I've ever been here, but I feel like I've seen this before. Something is telling me there's danger here, that it shouldn't be opened. It's a man? A person?
Was it you who awoke me? It is somewhat earlier than I had planned, but no matter. Thank you for awakening me. Have we met before? Oh, please forgive me. You are a purifier model, assigned to the direct command of Mother. As I recall, you are designated Mega Man Trigger. Please forgive me. I did not recognize you in your current configuration.
You know me?
You don't remember? Ah, I see. You have suffered memory loss, yes? Then for what purpose have you awakened me? I assume that your reason for coming here is to purge the carbons.
Juno arrives basically out of nowhere, rather than the final boss being revealed as intimidating or even confrontational. We're greeted with a smile so synthetic that it doesn't even bother to try to reach his eyes. His eyes that, I want to note now, we never even get to see open. Then again, the eyes are the gateway to the soul, and from what happens next, it would be almost completely safe to say that he has none. You see, upon opening the main gate, you unwittingly awakened Mega Man Juno, the bureaucratic unit, a brand of Mega Man in which he states his intended function being to purge the carbons, which normally would sound inconspicuous. If I'm being completely honest with you, if not for the music being so innately sinister, I would have never initially perceived this line as any form of threat. And I would have seen it as throwaway if you ask me. Because to be honest, Juno himself is not imposing at all if you ask me. To be honest, if you place him above, up on the surface of Cadillac's Island, and he mentioned purging carbons, I probably would have initially just assumed he was a giant Roomba. To be quite honest with you, on a visual level, I think he's just as goofy as any other inhabitant on the island. And his deceiving design makes what happens next all the more chilling.
That have overpropagated during the time I was inactive.
Carbons? Purge? What are you talking about?
According to Urban Military Security Ordinance A10, the number of carbon units is not allowed to increase beyond the pre-specified limit. If this happens, they are to be purged immediately. My observation, if left unattended, the carbons will reproduce indefinitely. Their numbers will grow, polluting the surface world. They can be quite a nuisance.
Carbons? Do you mean the people on the island?
The carbons fit mass population model B. They are unstable, very difficult to control. Perhaps it would be better to simply reinitialize.
Reinitialize? Now, I haven't understood much of what you've been saying, but when you say reinitialize, do you mean no? Huh?
With not even an inch of malice or any form of deviousness in his cadence, Juno explains his duty. Now that he's powered on, he is to perform a mass purge on the denizens of Cadillac Island. He'll do this by activating a device called Eden that within the proper range of orbit will presumably fire some sort of laser. I say presumably because at this point, the only thing clear is what Eden will do, not exactly how Eden will do it. Mind you, as this is all explained, the closest Juno gets to showing any emotion is when he mentions that the task will be easier with the cooperation of a fellow Mega Man unit, but shrugs you off as a minor inconvenience, and simply says he could back up Mega Man's data for future use. Yikes. Around this point, it's where it hit me that the island is actually very strange. Not in terms of only what it contains, but what certain visuals imply. Let's take a peek at the map of Cadillac's island. Normal island structures tend to look a little more jagged and busy in terms of shapes, but Cadillac's itself looks almost too smooth at some points. In addition to most landmasses being overrun by water in this world, these rounded cutoff points always made me wonder something. Are these naturally occurring or the doing of something else? You see, Juno has been present for a non-specific amount of time at this point. How many times, for lack of a better word, has he carried out his bureaucratic duty on Cadillac's island? And over the course of how many years exactly? And could we be sure that Cadillac's was always even an island? A truly terrifying thought is, what if it was more like a continent at first, and over time, only God knows how many blasts from Eden, or whatever Eden does, reduced Cadillac's to, well, the island we see today. Come to think of it, all of those bunkers, could it be that whoever these ancients were may have been hiding from the terror of Juno? Well, that's the thing. I don't exactly think so, seeing as we found his access key securely protected within all these elaborate structures deep in the subcities. Is it possible that maybe these underdwellers, well, maybe they were, well, they most certainly were, and one can only imagine the culture they built to conclude that this monster was necessary. Even far removed from his initial purpose, Juno is still a terror all his own. Such a creepy contradiction in his design is that, contrary to him being this big, bulky, almost hulking figure, in your final battle with him, he moves with grace that's almost completely unnatural. The contrast is just so odd, not to mention his face still unmoving, that eerie smile not budging an inch, his tone remaining completely unfazed. That is, at least until...
Routine functions. But do not be disappointed. It appears it will take longer than anticipated for Eden to reach its optimal altitude. If you can terminate me before then, you will be able to stop it. Assuming you are capable of deactivating me.
What?
Are you ready?
Sincerely, how did this get cleared for a children's game? This abomination seems to be a giant spinal cord, and rather than remain stationary like one would expect after a form change like this, he somehow becomes even more mobile, adding to the tension and fear factor even more. But above all else, something changes. And no, his face is still never changing, which is the icing on the cake for this absolute nightmare. What changes is his dialogue. This one seemingly robotic and seemingly one-minded robot suddenly completely drops the facade, his once calm voice and demeanor completely spiraling into something desperate. Does this imply true feelings? If so, what else does he feel? With his primary directive being to get rid of carbons, does he somehow take pleasure in the act of destroying life itself? I suppose, and I'm grateful that we'll never know, because soon after dispatching him, he simply leaves with this.
If you wish to shoot me, please do not hesitate. My program has already been backed up in Eden's central core. I eagerly await my next activation.
Eden systems ready, awaiting confirmation. Requested backup of bureaucratic model Mega Man Juno complete. Execution.
Curtain call.
This will be a hard one to approach, so let's take an elevator ride together. First, we're tasked with climbing a tower that perfectly depicts the mind of a disturbed child, obsessed with pleasures of every kind that one could imagine, even pleasures that should never be within proximity of a kid. We also get to see a glimpse into a soul unable to let go of a twisted fixation on an adversary who has likely been dead for only God knows how long, hundreds upon hundreds of years at least. After navigating 100 floors of this tower, you're finally met face to face with Porky, the boy who is undoubtedly the cause of every conflict on your adventure thus far. He himself seems to be immobile, but he's attached to some sort of nightmarish-looking life support, while his body remains eerily one-to-one from the last time we saw him. But now the time to fight has come, and Porky reveals a lot of things. For starters, the fact that he found himself with the ability to time travel, this leading to his body basically being warped beyond reality, getting to the point where his mind is so gone, even he himself doesn't know his true age, and he estimates he could be anywhere from either 1,000 to 10,000 years old, and whatever he's done to himself, by now he's able to use incomprehensible attacks. For reference, the last being we saw using this was an entity of multi-dimensional proportions. To see Porky be able to execute anything like that is a little more than disturbing. However, refusing to be beat, Porky now retreats into his completely safe capsule, where unbeknownst to him there is no way out, meaning between his life support machine and that capsule, he will remain there for an eternity, trapped in a bubble until the edge of time. You now must face your brother, who Porky has turned into a machine, to be used solely as a commander and weapon. Praying for a way out is no longer an option, but we can't really fight either. By the grace of some higher power, your mother's voice celebrates the life of her two twins, and memories flash on screen, and thankfully, for a moment, they seem to reach Klaus. We're being given what we want. Klaus has a moment to fight back against his programming. For only a moment, he's granted his body, but with his moment of autonomy being for such a short time, he makes the decision that we can't. With all said and done, the time comes that we lift the final needle, and what happens next? We're told things, but we're intentionally left in the dark, literally. No joke, literally left in the dark to guess about the state of the physical world. Mind you, all of these events follow after we find out that us and everyone we know are living a second life on a faraway planet because we destroyed our original one, and as a result chose to wipe our memories before making a new home for ourselves in hope that we could find a new path, to start fresh on new land. But it would seem that no matter what, we proved that humanity itself would repeat this cycle, the same cycle, all over again.